So hello and welcome to Intuitive Connection. I'm your host, intuitive counselor and spiritual guide, Victoria Shaw. And today we have a guest who I've been waiting quite a while to interview. So I'm really happy that the stars have finally aligned. And our guest is Dr. Larry Farwell, who is a Harvard-educated neuroscientist, the author of the #1 best-selling book, The Science of Creating Miracles, Neuroscience, Quantum Physics, and Living the Life of Your Dream. So all my favorite things. Time Magazine selected him as the 100 top innovators of the century list. He's consulted with leading individuals and organizations, top government leaders, agencies worldwide, like the FBI, CIA, Navy, even the President of the United States. He has been featured on CBS Evening News, ABC World News, CNN, BBC, and the New York Times. And he also invented brain fingerprinting, a scientific technique to detect criminals and terrorists and exonerate the innocent by measuring brainwaves. He also invented the first brain-computer interface to communicate directly from the brain to a computer. Oh, I can't wait to hear about that. And to control robots and speak through speech synthesizers using brainwaves. And his books, retreats, and online courses provide practical techniques for applying this new science to create your own miracles and live the life of your dream. Based on his groundbreaking scientific research, he weaves together neuroscience, quantum physics, expansion of consciousness, and effective techniques that you can use to truly live an extraordinary life. All right. I think I got through it. There's so much goodness there and excitement. Dr. Larry, welcome.
Well, it's delightful to be here with you, Victoria.
Yay. Likewise, the same. I'm really excited. And so people that follow the show know law of attraction and neuroscience are two of my favorite topics.
Me too.
Yeah. And quantum physics, having been previously married to a physicist for 3 decades, I don't know. Physics goes over my head, but I love that too, at least in theory. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. And I guess the first question that's popping into my brain is, how is it that you got to do what you do? Because typically, and I know I'm Princeton educated, so typically those of us that start in the Ivy League, don't go to such exciting places, or at least I know it wasn't a thing people were doing back in my day.
Well, I've gotten to do the things I've gotten to do largely because of my brainwave-based inventions. However, what the real reason I've gotten to do things I've gotten to do is because I think that the reason I'm here is to discover, from a scientific perspective, a bridge between the ancient eternal knowledge of enlightenment and higher states of consciousness and the current arbiter of truth, pretty much in today's world, which is the world of science. And bringing these two together is really what my life has been about. In fact, I got involved. I went to Harvard and got my PhD in neuroscience, really because I was interested in higher states of consciousness. I had experiences since I was a little kid, since before I could talk. And so I knew there was more to life than most people realized. So I thought, well, if I want to help people to see that and understand that, I can explore it from a scientific perspective, and that will help to bring these worlds together.
Wow, that's brave and bold and amazing. And for me, I remember what brought me, I was always fascinated by the brain, but I didn't go the neuroscience route. I thought I would, but I didn't. But it was the same kind of longing. So I love that commonality. And it's true, like at the time, I knew about philosophy, I knew about science. I didn't know about spirituality. So I love that you were already open to that. So for me, I was just trying to find my way through the web that was presented to me. And it was a while into it when I woke up and said, oh, I don't know if this is the right tools for me to build what I want to build. But you've gone and done it. You've really, gone and created scientific inventions, right, that start to bridge that gap.
Well, that's been my goal in any case. That's my aspiration.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful, beautiful stuff. So let's talk about, I don't even know where to begin. So you've been having these mystical experiences since you were a child.
Yeah. All right. Well, what really got me started in this was and this isn't how I begin my lectures if I'm speaking to a scientific conference, but for you,
Oh yeah,
it
my people don't.
is.
Yeah, you're talking to the world of woo here.
Okay, well, excellent. My beginnings in this, I was 13 years old and I was drowning. Now, what I don't mean is I was wondering what my life was about and I didn't know where to go. What I mean is I was underwater and I was out of
Wow.
air, I was out of breath, I was out of time. And I realized, Victoria, that I had only a few seconds left to live. So at that moment, I let go, I consciously let go of everything, my intentions, my plans, my attachments, everything, because I realized this was over, this was the end. And at that moment, several things happened that really changed my life. One was that my whole life flashed before my eyes. And I've read, oh, people are drowning, their life flashed before their eyes. It was nothing like those words. It was just as clear as this experience here and now, except all at once.
Yeah.
And I had never realized I could have that expanded state of consciousness. So that was quite a revelation to me. And at the same time, I experienced myself as an infinite, unbounded cosmic being beyond time and space. I had no regrets at all that this lifetime was ending after 13 years. I felt as though, and this is probably the most important thing that happened to me, was I felt as though I saw my life for what it really was, as if I'd been in a dream and I woke up and oh, this is what life really is. So I saw my life truly for the reality that it was, and I felt it was. I can't put this into words. It was what it was. There's nothing to change, nothing to fix. It simply was what it was, and I could see the perfection in that. Not that I didn't see the mistakes and the pain and all that stuff. I could just see that if I could have that experience of my life ongoingly, it would just flow effortlessly.
Yeah.
I would be completely in tune with myself, with nature. And then I realized, well, wait a sec. Now that I see my life the way it really is, I'm not leaving. I'm not ready to go.
Wow.
And I needed a miracle. And I needed it really quickly because I only had a few seconds left. So from that unbounded level of consciousness, and this is what first got me interested in the science of creating words. From that unbounded level of consciousness, I had that impulse, and I got the miracle. I made it to the surface, and then the experience was gone. And I was gasping for air and spitting water and all of those things. And so at that moment, I realized, all right, what my life is here for is to discover how to have an experience of what life really is on the level of consciousness. And that's really when I became a seeker.
Wow. That's a beautiful, profound, and somewhat scary story. That's amazing. And when we teach, and when I have not had that experience, but that's what my guides show me all the time, is there is this inner perfection to everything as it is right now. And when you are flowing from there, life is delightful. It's just delightful and beautiful. And I think too miraculous. And, I was listening today. I was out on a little hike because the weather here is absolutely gorgeous. And I was listening to a tape by Abraham Hicks, and who is a teacher that we talk a lot about on the show. And but I was just, kind of going along. But one of the things that they said that kind of makes me think, especially because we're going to talk about miracles today, because that is in the title of your book. But they were talking about how, it's really exciting when we get these big miracles, right? But it's also really exciting when you learn to just, expect everything to be a miracle, all the little stuff, all the flow, right? Because sometimes, as human seekers, we're looking for those big experiences, which are amazing when they happen. But life can just be a series, can just be a constant series of just like, having a desire and have it fulfilled, kind of like that. So,
Yes, life is an ongoing experience, and we do create our lives. I think many of the people viewing us here realize that all of the wise people throughout thousands of generations, have said the way we create our lives is we have an impulse on the level of our consciousness. And since the essential constituent of me and the essential constituent of you and the essential constituent of the universe is the same thing, this unified field. Einstein coined the term unified field to describe the field that the particle wave phenomena that make up creation arise from, and all of our subjective experience arise from. And we say conscious unified field because that consciousness is the foundation not only of our experience, but of creation. Right. We create an impulse on that level, and it's like plucking my guitar. I don't know if you can hear that. Plucking a guitar string, it sets up a resonant frequency, and other instruments in the environment vibrate at that same resonant frequency. So we discover that the resonance we've created within shows up in our life. Now, that is what all of the great spiritual teachers have told us throughout the ages. However, it hadn't ever been tested in the scientific laboratory. So that's something that I've been involved in with the scientific research that I've done.
All right, tell us more.
All right. Well, I was sitting in a restaurant with my dad. And my dad is a physicist, quantum physicist. He's one of the guys who invented the atomic bomb. And so I said, "Hey, Dad, anything is possible." And he said, "Yes, son. Any imaginable configuration of quantum particle wave phenomena is possible. Some are probable, some are improbable, some are extremely improbable, but anything is possible. And the whole universe simply consists of quantum particle wave phenomena." So I said, "Okay, Dad, it's possible that you and I, our bodies, all the elementary particles that make up our bodies, plus enough air to breathe, are going to tunnel from here to the other side of the moon. We'll carry on this conversation to the other side of the moon. And tunneling is a known phenomenon in quantum mechanics. You can prove it in the laboratory. It's been proven in the laboratory." So he said, "Well, yeah, you're right." And in fact, he got out a paper napkin and he wrote down a formula and he calculated the approximate probability that that would happen, that we would tunnel to the other side of the moon. Now, spoiler alert, it was low probability, it actually didn't happen.
Okay.
But the point is that anything is possible, and that even if something as extremely improbable as that. So actually, that's my first take-home message for anyone who's viewing us today, is that you have amazing, impossible sounding dreams. And from a I'm not talking woo-woo here, I'm talking from a scientific perspective, your amazing, spectacular, quote unquote, impossible dreams are in fact possible. And what I've been exploring since that conversation and in the laboratory is, well, can we create miracles? Can we create impossible or extremely improbable events? That's the research that my dad and I have embarked on and have shown that you can. I'll tell you a little more about that if you like.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm at the edge of my seat.
All right. Well, I have to go a little bit. I have to geek out a little bit about quantum physics. And bear with me here because this is going to become relevant.
Okay.
And it's actually simple. Okay.
Put on your thinking caps, friends.
Okay. Structure of the universe. This table in front of me, you might be able to hear me knocking on it, appears to be very solid and brown. That's my experience. However, if you look more scientifically, not more woo-woo, more scientifically at this table, is not solid at all. It's mostly empty space. And their molecules, it's not still. It's not static. There are molecules moving around at high speeds. If you look within the molecules more scientifically, you see atoms. And they're moving, again, mostly empty space, and they're moving around quickly. You look within the atoms, again, mostly empty space, and you see elementary particles, protons, neutrons, electrons. You look within those, you see quarks. You look within those to the string theory label, and you see vibrating strings. So this appears to be a solid table that's way different from my body and the air around it and this boat that I'm on. But in fact, I am on a boat, by the way, you might be able to see in the background. But in fact, this is simply a pattern of vibrations. And what is vibrating? Einstein coined the term unified field to describe that unified field that vibrates into the quantum particle wave phenomenon that we see as the physical creation. So what we have is that anything is possible, and that this is simply a pattern of vibrations, and that all the wise people tell us that we set up a resonance on the level of our consciousness and we create that in the universe. Okay, how do we test that in the scientific laboratory? So my dad and I decided we would test that. Now, we've all had experiences, I bet everybody out there has had an experience something like this. Well, I'd really like to hear from Victoria. And just then, phone rings and it's Victoria. However, I mean, maybe we created that resonance, but we don't know the probability. So we can't say that's a scientific experiment. We can say with a high probability that that's real. However, we do know the probability of alpha particle emission by plutonium. And plutonium is
Okay.
one.
That was a jump, but keep going. Keep going. I'm following you. If I'm
Okay.
following you, listeners are probably following you too. Okay.
Okay, great. So we know the probability distribution of alpha particle emission by plutonium. And that we can measure very precisely in the lab. So we said, okay, we'll set up an experiment. I did the neuroscience end, he did the physics end, where we measured the probability distribution of alpha particle emission by plutonium. And we found that we could shift it simply by having a resonance on the level of consciousness. Now I want to go this way. Now I want to go this way.
Wow.
It could shift the probability distribution of that quantum mechanical event. Now, few people that I know, maybe me and my dad, but few other people that I know, get up in the morning and think, man, today I'd really like to shift the probability distribution of alpha particle emission by plutonium.
Yeah.
People do get up in the morning and say, I would like to have a spectacular career, make a big difference in the world, have a loving, delightful, intimate relationship, create a world that's the kind of world we'd like to live in. So those are also events in the quantum mechanical universe, improbable events, perhaps. Well, we can shift that probability. We can create, what we've proven in the laboratory is we can create extremely improbable events. That means miracles. So the science of creating miracles involves tuning into your resonance of that, what you'd like to create in the world, set is at a very quiet level, and moving the conscious unified field in that, and then it shows up in life.
Wow.
And we, okay, again, not on the woo-woo level, but we not only proved your amazing, miraculous desires and aspirations are possible, but we proved in the laboratory you can create them from the level of your own consciousness.
Wow. So that is the law of attraction basically demonstrated in a scientific lab.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And again, for me, woo and science are, they're just different ways of poking at the same thing. That's just how I see it. But I mean, that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful how that all comes together. And so you did this work. Is there more going on with this stream of research, or I mean, yeah, or is that just kind of what got the party started?
Well, we've proven that in the scientific laboratory. We've proven the foundations of the phenomenon.
Right.
And however, there's more that can be done. One is a question, well, there are a bunch of things. One is the question of, all right, how do we enhance our ability? How do we raise our level of consciousness? How do we enhance our ability to create miracles? How do we eliminate the blocks and restrictions in our life that interfere with the process of our beautiful divine nervous system functioning at its highest level, and therefore being the most effective at creating miracles? Because the level of impact you can have on the world depends on your level of consciousness. For example, the level of improbability. For example, let's say I want to create a miracle. I really want an apple. And so I go to the store, and the store doesn't usually carry apples, and it's not apple season, so it's a low probability event. But lo and behold, they've got apples. I buy an apple, I take it home, I've got an apple. Now, I wouldn't exactly call that a miracle, but it's a low.
I'd call that a miracle.
All right, a minor miracle. Okay, now you have a closer attunement to the conscious unified field. You think, oh, we really like to have an apple. And a knock comes on the door, your friend comes in, I happen to have a bag of apples here. Have an apple? That's a lower probability event, a more of a miracle. Now, if you have a finer attunement to the conscious unified field, you can have a faint impulse, like an apple. You're sitting out in your backyard, an apple truck walks by, hits above, the apple bounces out, lands on the table.
Right.
If you have full attunement to the conscious unified field, you holding out your hand, exactly. You can simply have That configuration of quantum particle wave phenomena has a finite probability of appearing here and now. You can create that improbable in a minute. And that's on the level of walking on water and turning water to wine and things like that. Those are scientifically possible if you have a close enough attunement to the conscious unified field. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how we enhance our attunement, how the brain learns and how we can reflect more consciousness.
I think listeners would love to know how to make an apple appear in their hands, or maybe like a bar of gold or $1,000,000 or, the cure to whatever ails them. So yeah, bring it on.
Okay. Well, actually, I'll talk a little bit about, since you said a bar of gold or $1,000,000, and there are some keys to manifestation. Because if all we had to do, I mean, basically what we proved in the laboratory is we can create highly improbable events, we can create miracles, and there are some scientific evidence real. So clearly, the conclusion we can reach from that is that all of us have absolutely perfect lives at this moment and have everything that we want. But since that's not the case, we have to look at, well, what stands between us and there, or what is the mechanism? I described, as you have a higher and higher level of consciousness, you have greater and greater ability to manifest. And there's some keys to that. One is clarity of vision. Now, clarity of vision does not mean specificity of result. In other words, I say, okay, I want to have this great life. I want $1,000,000. Now, what we want is probably not that $1,000,000. We want an experience. Because you might think the external thing is going to give you the experience. But okay, so let's say you get the $1,000,000, but you get it by robbing a bank, spend the rest of your life in jail. You got $1,000,000, but $1,000,000 wasn't what we really wanted. So it's important. Clarity of vision doesn't mean specificity of result. It doesn't mean hammering away at $1,000,000. What experience do we desire from the $1,000,000? Do we want to be able to be very generous? Do we want to have the freedom to go where we want? Do we want to be able to make things that we've discovered that are valuable available to other people? Do we want to buy fancy cars and impress people? What is the experience we desire? So clarity of vision is important. Right. Another important factor is depth of experience. If you have a thought on the surface level, it has a minimal impact. If you have a thought at a quieter level, the depth of consciousness, closer to the conscious unified field, it has a more powerful effect. The intellect shouts, the emotions scream, the intuition whispers. Right. It's on this quiet level of whisper that we have a faint impulse that has the most power. Yeah. That's not not similar to what happens if you want to develop your biceps. You can do push-ups, you push harder, you get more development in your biceps. But with respect to consciousness, it's actually by letting go, by allowing our awareness to settle down to these quieter levels, that we gain more power. Another critical factor is support of nature. Actually, I'll tell you a story about this.
Sure.
I was out, I had just been out in my boat, one of the boats, and I was sitting on a dock in the lake with a young lady that I was very interested in and just getting to know. We were having a wonderful time. We'd just been out in my other boat, which was by the dock, and we were sitting in the sunshine having a wonderful time. And usually when something appears to be an attack on your life, it appears to be an attack on your value, your safety, or your power, or some combination of those.
Okay.
And we carry around within ourselves, well, I'll get to that later. We carry around within ourselves an inner blueprint that we're only 75% safe and 43% valuable and 55% powerful. And before I continue with the story, I want to talk about the mechanics of how we shift that inner blueprint. So we're expressing our true nature is a conscious unified field, 100% valuable, 100% safe, 100% powerful. But we're resonating to something less than that, a lesser blueprint. And after years of that, we're sending out that resonance. And now we have all kinds of evidence in our life. Oh, I really am unsafe. Look at that.
Right.
We created it originally, but then it comes back at us.
Yeah.
So we have this inner blueprint that's not our full blueprint. How do we shift that? Okay, now we have to go into neuroscience. Fundamentals of neuroscience. You're crawling around on the floor, and you touch the floor, you touch the wall, you touch the table leg. Not much happens because there's not much to learn. You touch the hot stove, and now you have an aha experience. Now there's something valuable, information you've got to take. You've got to shift your inner vision of what the world is like. Now we know what happens when you touch a hot stove, and you don't want to do that. So when you touch the hot stove, when you have an intense experience, when you have an aha experience, it opens up your brain for reprogramming. So the value of these aha experiences are that they open your brain for reprogramming. Now we can, now it doesn't, by the way, there is a brain response that takes place when you have one of these aha experiences. It is called a memory and encoding related multifaceted electroencephalographic response, or MER, murmur, which you will not be on later. And these murmur moments are what open up our brain for reprogram. That's how the brain learns. Now, this murmur moment does not have to be a negative experience. You don't have to touch a hot stove. You could touch a hot babe or a hot dude, or you just,
right.
you can look in the eyes of somebody that's really amazing to you.
So it can open you up to positive possibilities as well.
Yes. And whatever the trigger, it opens your brain up for reprogramming. It opens you up to recreate an inner vision. Oh, who am I really? I'm 100% safe, 100% valuable, 100% powerful. Tune into your true blueprint. So I was out on the dock with this woman, and a guy comes by paddling in a kayak, and he says, "When are you going to get rid of that piece of shit boat out there? I can't stand looking at it." And so this was a life-threatening attack on my value, on my attack by boats. I like my boats. They're valuable. My safety. I mean, potentially it could be an attack on my power and safety. It could destroy my entire lineage throughout nature, throughout thousands of years. If I didn't together with this woman. I mean, this was a life-threatening event. Emotionally, that's what it felt like. I mean, I didn't have thoughts that were that stupid, but
then, no, it can be those kind of things that threaten the ego, that trigger us, that get us into that state. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So fight or flight response. My first impulse was, aha, I know what to do. I'll take one of these boat fenders, and these things are rubber things that keep the boat from hitting the dock too hard. I'll knock him out of his kite.
I hope that didn't happen.
Well, that didn't happen because I took a breath, and I have a technique I should call 5 questions, which I practiced on myself. Fortunately for me and for my karma and for the guy in the car. So, first question is, what happened? Now, when I say what happened, I mean extraterrestrial alien robot report. So an alien robot comes in. He doesn't know, but it doesn't know about human emotions, motivations, values. It reports exactly events that happen. So when I say what happened, alien robot report. Okay. Man and woman sitting on a dock. Sunny day by the lake. Man comes in on a kayak, asks the man on the dock when he's going to get rid of his boat, and compares that boat to a turd. That's what happened.
Right.
That now, simply by recognizing what happened. Now, my initial evaluation of what happened might have been different. This guy, obviously, he was probably beaten as a child. Everybody hates him. He rested to get revenge on the world. He's trying to degrade me by insulting my boat. All that would be an interpretation. The actual event that happened is an alien robot report. Okay. And that takes some of the trigger out of it.
For sure.
Because clearly his opinion about my boat has nothing to do with even the value of my boat, let alone me. So that's the first question, is what happened. And really happened, alien robot report. Second question is, did that decrease my value? Am I less valuable now than I was 30 seconds ago before some guy came up in a kayak and said that sentence? Well, no. Am I less powerful than 30 seconds ago before that guy came up and said that sentence? No. Am I less safe? And the answer to those questions was no.
Right.
So at that moment, I thought, aha, now my brain is opened up for reprogramming. I've been triggered by this. And now I have had an aha moment, a murmur moment. So I took a moment to tune into my own being, conscious unified field. That's the next question. Who am I? And I tuned into that level within myself, 100% valuable, safe, powerful, that being that I experienced when I was drowning and everything else was gone except myself. And from that, so that creates a shift in your inner blueprint more towards infinitely powerful, safe, valuable, more towards that state of enlightenment where you have that unbounded awareness all the time. So what I was able to do then is take something which could have been a degrading experience, something that was a triggering experience, and shift it, transmute it into an evolutionary experience towards more, less stress, towards a truer blueprint, towards more attunement to who I truly am. So that's something that you can practice. It turns any triggering event on its head. It turns it upside down. So that instead of being something which is damaging, it's actually an opportunity for evolution.
All right. So I got to pause you with a question there because that's beautiful. I'm going to play with that too. But step three, right? You have a reference point. You said that moment that I was drowning, I knew this thing, right? So you have that reference point and you're like, I know what that feels like. I know how to get there. What about people that maybe are like the what? The feeling valuable, the feeling like all is well. Like, I don't know what that like how do you help people find the step three moment?
Okay. Well, I'll tell you how I don't.
Okay. That's always a good start.
Because the intellect shouts, the emotions scream, the intuition whispers. So what a lot of you might think, and what some people apparently teach is, well, you got to think harder about. Okay, I'm so valuable, I'm so powerful. Just get that idea
We
in
talk about that a lot on the show.
there. So the
Yeah.
harder you try, the more your awareness is locked on the surface, and the less you're tuned into yourself.
Right.
So we get to those inner experience not by holding on, but by letting go, by tuning in. We've all had intuitive experiences where you just have some faint feeling. And so training ourselves by trusting your intuition. Oh, I have a faint impulse. Maybe it's a good time to go see Victoria. Uh, Tuning into that quieter level, listening to that inner whisper. And of course, there are techniques of transcendental meditation, which I've done for many years. I learned from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. It takes your awareness from the surface to that unbounded field of pure consciousness. All the techniques that refine your awareness. I mean, yoga, the word yoga means union. The union that's being referred to as the union of the conscious thinking mind with the field of pure consciousness. In physical yoga, hatha yoga, is meant to refine the nervous system to reflect higher consciousness. Right. Having a good diet, getting proper sleep, being in a harmonious environment, all the things we do which raise our consciousness. But then the practice of creating miracles is to let go rather than to hold on.
Yes, 1,000%. And I would think too, if you do I mean, you said so much in there, so I don't want to backtrack, but I'm going to for a little bit, because I think something else that you said, it like something else with those 3 steps too, is oftentimes by the time you get to step 3, you're there. Right. It's like 1 and 2 are going to take you there anyway, because you kind of let go of what was getting in the way. And your consciousness might just naturally rise to that level of, okay, I thought that guy who cut me off in traffic, it was scary. It felt for a moment like this was a really big deal, but I'm okay. I'm safe. Like it's, and then you naturally kind of get back to the truth of the moment.
Yes, we naturally go to the truth where we're not distracted by something else. Yeah. And ask questions: what actually happened? Did this reduce my value, my safety, my power? Once you've let go of those things, what's left is just who you truly are. So you're right; you get there spontaneously. And all the techniques of evolution that really work, they're all spontaneous. They're all like almost non-techniques. They allow us to simply experience who we are.
Yeah.
I want a couple of, it's difficult to be who you're not. It's easy to be who you are. I want one other caveat, and that is with respect to this 5 questions technique. I mean, you could call it 3. So what happened, and then.
Did I miss a few? Sorry, I'm not a good counter. Okay, go ahead. 5 questions.
The middle three could be counted as one. What happened? Uh, did this agree for my value, my power, my safety? You could count that as three or as one. And
Okay.
then, but at any rate, now the answer to one of those might be yes. If the building is burning down, now it's not the time, oh, tune into my subtle essence. If the building's burning down, the answer is yes, this is a threat to my safety. And then you run out of the building. So this technique is useful. It's useful to distinguish whether this really is a threat to my value, safety, and power. And if it is, then we deal with it on this low level. But when it's not, which it's usually not, when some guy cuts you off in traffic or insults your boat, then naturally we go to who we truly are. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's beautiful. I think it's very Byron Katie-esque as well, in a different way, in a different way of getting at it. But it's beautiful. Like, I'm gonna practice it, and friends that follow this, with Dr. Leary's permission, maybe we'll make a little graphic for the socials too and quote you, because I think seeing that written out is really beautiful.
Well, it's fun.
Yeah. All right. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's like when a triggering event comes along, and they say, oh, not this again. You start to have a little smile coming out the corners of your mouth because, aha, this is an
Yeah.
opportunity for transmutation. This is a
Yeah.
murmur moment. It's an opportunity to tune into who I truly am. It
Right.
opens the awareness opens your brain for reprogramming.
Right.
Go
And
ahead.
and I would say too that the more attuned we are to who we really are, and the more that we get into that habit, and it's an effortless habit, really. There's a few things you got to do, but ultimately it's just letting your boat get back in the flow. Then everything about life starts to flow with that too. It's not, in my experience, it's not that everything is perfect 24/7, though sometimes my monkey mind thinks it would prefer that, but I'm pretty sure ultimately my soul would not. But it's miraculous how more easily you recover from things. And also just life, the outer world starts to, flow so beautifully with the inner world. It gets easier, it gets better. And, again, you get those minor miracles as well as the major ones, which make us so excited in the lab and so excited in life. But, miracles are like, they abound all the time when you're living in the flow. And so I think that's just a beautiful practice that gets us where we want to be. So I have to start winding down. It makes me sad, but we've already been talking for like 45 minutes. I have two worrying questions. I think what I'm going to do is ask you the one that I ask everyone on the show. And then I might do a little bonus episodes with a few more questions at the end of the proper podcast episode. So, the question, Dr. Leary, that I ask everyone on the show, and I think it's relevant to what we've been talking about right now, because we're talking about intuition and how to find it, and that when we can connect at that quiet whisper level, that's when everything starts moving again. But I ask everybody on the show, how do you personally experience your intuition?
Again, the intellect shouts, the emotions scream, the intuition whispers. So, to personally experience my intuition, I let go of whatever the intellect is holding me to, let go of whatever the emotions are holding me to. I allow my awareness to settle. The question that I'll be asking is, again, who am I? What does it feel like to be the real Dr. Larry? What does my being feel like? What does my self feel like? A large S self. And by opening oneself up to that question and letting go of the answers on the intellect level and the emotional level, I find I spontaneously have an experience of my own inner being. And if there's anything I desire at that, I let go of that too. Because the mechanics of manifestation are you have a faint impulse, very faint impulse on that quiet level of intuition, and you let go of even that, and your awareness settles into the conscious unified field, and that moves the infinite in that impulse. If you're holding on to the impulse, your awareness doesn't dip into the conscious unified field.
Yeah. So my simple two-step process to life, which is far less nuanced than yours, is, have the intention, let it go. That's it. Have the
That's right.
intention, let it go. Have the intention, let it go. And then you can add some extra flavor, like, when that intention comes in alignment with our intuition and it's coming from that deeper place, it's often the result is way more satisfying. And, you know, um, believing that that what you let back is coming back to you helps too. But like, anyway, that's my simple way of summing up what you said. It's so true. You have that intention, but then you have to release everything in order to
Yes.
receive.
Yes. Well, your brief half a sentence description really encapsulates the truth about it. It is. You have that intention, let it go. Now, even the word intention sometimes
Yeah.
causes people to grab on too much, or have that intention, or have that faint impulse. And desire can sometimes cause us to grab
Yeah.
faint impulse, desire, resonance, but something very have that subtle impulse and let go. And that's brilliant. And that, by the way, is not the way everyone thinks about it. But the people who are successful at creating miracles, they all have that same algorithm. They have that faint impulse to let go. It moves the conscious unified field, and that moves the universe.
Yeah. I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you for validating my two-step process. That's what the
Yeah.
guides gave me. And that's what I follow. But you fleshed it out so beautifully. And the science fascinates me because even though I do have a fancy degree from a fancy school, and I once called myself at least a pseudo-scientist. I don't have a scientific mind. I was cheating and using my intuition the whole darn time. I just didn't know what it was called. So yeah, mathy people, it's beautiful. So bringing those two things together and explaining it so well. I know this is going to be a well listened to episode, and I have a feeling people will be coming back to it again and again. So I'm so grateful to you for coming on today and sharing with listeners. Before we totally say goodbye, tell people how they can find more and what that might look like.
All right. My website is drlarryfarwell.com, drlarryfarwell.com. And all of the things about me, or a lot of things about me, are there on the website. I teach courses. I have retreats where people go into the experience of this, because having shown this in the scientific laboratory, I've spent the last 20 years developing specific techniques to enhance people's ability to tune into themselves and to create miracles and to dissolve those stresses, those blocks, to our getting to the life that we'd love to have.
Beautifulness. All right. So I'll have all that information in the show notes. You can check it out. Maybe we'll get him to Cactus Blossom Retreat. Who knows? It could happen. And
now that I think of it, science creating miracles, neuroscience, quantum physics, and living life of your dreams.
oh yeah, the book.
You read my book.
Yes. And we can find that on all the major places that books are sold. All right. And you can also find that in, if you go on the show notes, we have a link to, I can't remember, my bookshop as well, which sources from independent bookstores if you want to go that route instead of Amazon. And anything works. Buy the book. And Dr. Larry, this was such a pleasure, such a gift. I'm so glad I get to do this. Like I said, I think this is going to be one that's really, really appreciated by so many of our listeners, science and woo folks, and those like me that are happily, or like us, that are happy to have one hand in each pot. And so thank you so much. And listeners, I know I say it every time, but I'm going to say it again. I'm so grateful to each and every one of you because, you let me do what I love to do. And it's an honor and a joy and a gift. And I love each and every one of you, and namaste.